Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of HODL the Line. Today, CCM couldn't make it. His wife is in the hospital again, so praying for the best for that. We do have a special guest. This has been planned out for a while. Thank you for joining us tonight, Crux, for an interesting conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here with both of you gentlemen. And today you're going to learn a lot about this, about crypto and where we're at in this current market.
And how are you doing tonight, Badel?
Doing all right. Got a storm rolling in. You know, it's supposed to start like kind of it's already started. It's supposed to end at like 7:30. So, you know, just in time for the whole show. You know, just perfect.
Oh man. Yeah.
That's how it always goes. Before we dive into the conversation, we do have a few people in chat. We've got Just Amber in here. Thank you for joining us. We've got Tenacious Tabbies in here as well. Thank you for joining us. And wow, Sissy Kissy Supper and Candies. That's a wild user.
That's a wild one.
We got Shuby in here as well. Shuby Buckets in the chat if you're a member. And then Andrea as well. Oh my, a bunch of hairy face people. Yep. Living the beard life. You know, it's the only way to live.
Yeah, it should be the one that did the hats. I think he
yes.
did he has some dope hats. Nice.
Oh yeah. He does a lot of cool stuff. Woodworking, and I think he does some stuff with some metal too. He made all of CCM stickers, so dope. Yeah, he pretty good with it. But tonight's conversation is a little bit different. You know, normally we like to talk to some news. We do have a news article to kind of reference for later in the conversation. But tonight we kind of wanted to talk about what we'd like to see from the crypto space. And we wanted to bring Crux on here and get his ideas. You know, if he was, you know, the man in charge of building a crypto project, or even if he's not, you know, and he has the ear of you know, one of the coders at one of these projects, and he's like, you know what your project really, really needs, and what will make it succeed is this. So what are some of the things that you thought up when I had brought this question to you? Because I know you read a lot of white papers, and there's a lot out there, so I'm sure you've got way more knowledge on some of these technicalities than I do.
All right, so yeah, we're about to get pretty crazy with this one. I've read tons of white papers, probably read over 100 white papers at this point. So I've done everything from the Ondo finances to the Ethereums and the Caspas, etc. And I've just learned so much over the years. And I think a lot of times all these L1s are copy and paste, very repetitive. So like Monad, very similar to what a SUI is, which is very similar to an Ethereum, which is similar to a Solana. And they change like two things and they recreate something. But if you're trying to be like the new monetary layer that the whole globe is going to adopt, you only have one shot at this. And right now you currently have Bitcoin. It's in the lead. Now, this is where it gets very like super subjective. So I've thought about this process of creating something called Press. Like super simple, the name, 5 letters, Press. And it's all about, so everybody has a smartphone, right? So everybody has access to this blockchain network. And I think the biggest issue that I have personally with Bitcoin is if I want to mine Bitcoin, I have to use my fiat money. So I have to have $1,000 to put into a hardware miner. I have to be able to put $500 into energy for the month, etc. So there is no, like, in my opinion, a fair way to be able to allow everyone in the world to be able to distribute like their efforts into this network, right? It's like if the people with money want to gain hash power of Bitcoin, they just buy miners and then they acquire the hash rate, right? And I think it just technically it's like unfair because again, if I'm like a homeless person living on the side of the road, I have no ability to add hash to this network, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's where it gets pretty crazy. So I think most people have a cell phone. I think at this point, let's just say 90% of Americans have a cell phone, or maybe even higher. And it's like, if you're able to get onto the blockchain network through your phone, and all you have to do is press a button, right, once a day. So it doesn't require any like in-depth knowledge. Like right now, you have like you have to be able to run Bitcoin Core and all these different intricacies of how to run a node, and that's pretty scary. Some people have 60 IQ points fighting around in their head, and they don't have the ability to think about how do I run some decentralized network, right? Everybody has at least the knowledge and the capacity to press a button on a phone, and then at that point, it would be proof of work. So you get rewarded for doing so. So I can keep on going into it, but that's kind of my quick synopsis of what press would be. It would just be everybody has to have access to it through a physical mean, which is a cell phone, and then through an intellectual mean, which is pressing a button.
So a little bit kind of like Pi Network did, where they were like, hey, if you have a phone, you can get access to our blockchain. And that's all you need. You need to just invite someone else, and it'll give you better rewards instead of buying into the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's definitely some other things like Pi Network isn't going to have the ability to do. So right now, I always try to update what would press be? What would press be? And I think a big thing is WorldCoin. So WorldCoin, they have these physical things where you have to give your physical like biometrics into this machine, and it prints you out a digital identity. And at that point, only one person can have access to doing certain things on that network. So the issue with what press would be without having that identity would be everyone could have like 10 phones and then just press that button every day. So the way to stop that from happening is you have to have one identity. It goes through a biometric layer, and it means Crux has one wallet. He gets one ability to press this button once a day, and he gets rewarded once a day for doing so. And then just over time, it just builds and builds and builds. It just evenly distributes. Whoever wants to be part of that network, all they got to do is get a phone, download the app, and start pressing once a day.
Well, I mean, so you wouldn't be worried with like, say, AI being able to just make a fake identity, being like, here's fake biometrics, and now you have two abilities to tap.
Yeah, so here's the issue with all of these different like philosophies and technicalities we could throw at this, because even quantum computing, I could say like, I want to make this perfect blockchain, but then quantum computing comes and destroys it. I think at this point, like 2026, the most like secure thing we have at this point is our biometrics. Like now we have passkeys, so like a combination of biometrics and passkeys, to where maybe the only way to sign into Crux's phone or to the blockchain is from his phone, and it's tied from his digital identity. And this does create issues. What if Crux's phone breaks? What if certain things happen? How do I recover it? And you would probably, which is the scary part, is need a centralized point to be able to recover certain things.
Makes sense. We can hear the storm now, Badel.
You were the one that unmuted me. No, I was.
Oh, sorry. It's just as he started, like just as
my buddy's out on his Harley heading this way, and he's like, "How's the rain?" I was like, "On and off." And then I was like, I looked up and I saw a bright flash, and immediately I heard a boom, like not a lightning, but like a transformer exploding. And I'm like, "Did we lose power?" Because everything out here is on solar, so if we lose power, I wouldn't know, except for the internet would go out. But so I was texting her, like, "Hey, are you outside?" Something just blew up, like not here, but very close.
No, he's definitely team solar. He got a bunch of solar panels and figured out a little bit mining with it.
It's a small setup. I got 4 200-watt shadow flux panels and a little solar generator. So
that's nice. It's like the new goals. Like 20 years ago, people weren't like so much thinking about like solar panels, but this day and age, like energy's gone up crazy. Like there's enough time for the technology to evolve, and now I think is the sweet time, the sweet spot to getting it integrated.
and still affordable enough to actually be like, okay, well, even without a tax incentive, I'm gonna do it. But
yeah, man, energy is getting crazy. We think about it, right? So Bitcoin costs on average 83,000 or so right now to mine on globally. So Kuwait, America, just average. If we go to like 2028, where it's going to cost $160,000, like Bitcoin better be at least 200K, by 2028, or we're going to start having these issues. And energy, that's like the one variable that we really have to figure out. Like, how do we get the price of, energy down? And I think pretty soon there's going to be some pretty big advancement. I'm not sure what it is, but I mean, there's a lot of people with their finger on the pulse.
We've talked about it here before, and I believe it's nuclear, because that seems to be what everyone's kind of pushing for. Not just here, but in China and in Russia and then in India as well. And these are like your bigger players on the global stage.
What about like your biggest player? So Elon Musk is very big on the solar. He's like 99.999% of the entire like solar system is the sun, or that's where the energy comes from. And it's like 0.001% or whatever is like Jupiter, like the mass of, their solar system. Is like, why are we not using the sun? And then he talks about like, once you can get into space, like it doesn't have to fight through the atmosphere, the solar panels or the solar rays. And you're able to get like 6 times or whatever more like efficiency by collecting it. So that like, I think there's a lot of people with, way smarter than me that are already trying to get their head wrapped around this.
Yeah, no, we've actually talked about that one here as well. Where, you just put a bunch of solar panels up in space, and it comes from sci-fi too, but it does get way more efficient. The biggest problem is now transporting the energy from up there to down here.
Sure. Yeah, we will see. But I like with Bitcoin, we have to get something in the next 4 years. Like I'm telling you, it's crazy because, I can get into the math. So diminishing returns, you had a 22x in Bitcoin's 2021 bull market. We had an 8.3x from 15.5 to 126K this last bull market. And based off diminishing returns, we should only get like a 3.5x from a bear market low. Let's just say 4x to be optimistic. And if we're at 60K, 60 times 4, that's 240. Like at best, Bitcoin goes to 240K if the 4-year cycles continue. And if it costs like 60 to 180,000 to mine in 2028, it's not a lot of like, wiggle room. And I mean, we're actually mining at a loss right now. I think it's again 83K to mine Bitcoin. So I mean, we'll keep them on, but for how long?
Well, I mean, so it'd be the same thing as always, where Buck. There's people like Buck who are still mining profitably, even though the average is 83. So the people whose average are higher, it's like, are you going to get squeezed out before Bitcoin goes back up in price again? Which you kind of need them to get squeezed out. It's kind of built into the whole cycle.
Yeah. So like what you said there, the second part where people get like before the price goes back up is like the speculative part. Because when I talked about the diminishing return and we get the 4x into 2028, 2020, 2029, then that means a diminishing return into like 2032 would be like a 2x. So like eventually the energy factor, in my opinion, has to break by 2028. But like at worst case scenario, we will know with 100% certainty if Bitcoin's going to survive, going into like 2031 or 2032 based off of energy constraints.
You still see people mining for gold up in remote areas though, where it's like, yeah, well, gold's, it's kind of a diminishing return and it costs more and more to get the supplies that you need to mine it. You've got to move it around and things like that. And people still make a business out of mining for gold. So
yeah, sure. But here's the issue with like that, right? So let's just say like one company is mining 30% at it, that is putting forth that effort. That's like, it just easily allows them to get that hash rate. Because if Crux is over here mining Bitcoin, I got a miner back there, whatever. Bitcoin's at 100K, it costs 180K. So I'm mining at like I'm taking a big hit, right? there's going to be a ton of people that are just turning it off. Guess who's not turning it off? The whales, the marathons, and so Foundry USA already has like 38% of all the Bitcoin hash rate. And that's right now where it's competitive. So just imagine like everybody like globally starts like turning off their miners. That's where it can start centralizing. So again, I'm not here to FUD Bitcoin or anything. I'm just here to talk energy, and it's a super important variable going forward.
See, and like that is one of the nice parts about a phone, where it's like you don't need a crazy amount. Like, I will be honest, there are some security risks when it comes to having like this is all just on the phone that like a computer won't have. I'm sure as Pi continues to go forward, we'll find out a little more about that, because there's not a whole lot of just strictly phone-based blockchains out there. But
yeah, for sure.
I think the energy will definitely push us that way, especially if we're not going to solve some of these constraints and we're going to be stuck in a more oil-based economy.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer the oil-based, but I will say, we could put on our conspiracy hats real quick. Like, it's pretty wild. Like, we kidnap, president of a country, and then there's oil that's like, there's oil part of that story, right? And then a little bit later, we go and we bomb a nation, and it's like, there's oil part of that story, right? And then the Strait of Hormuz, opens, close, open, close. And then all these scientists, it's like 11 or 13 at this point, that are specialized in energy and like aerospace. They're starting to go like AWOL, if you know what I mean. And then we have, I think it's like 18 different factories or something from Texas to Kuwait that are just like going up in flames. And it's like, why? Like, all of this has to do with energy. I don't know what's going on, but energy is at the center of it. So is it a last push for like the petrodollar? I don't know, but it's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah. Well, like it's more I would see it more as like the last ditch dying efforts of a system that's on its way out.
Sure.
They've tried to FUD crypto, and they've done a decent job, but what they've really opened up the door to is for people to find something like Dash, and for people to find something like you finding Caspa and pushing the message out there, where it's like, there's these nice things that you've all heard of, but if you want something that works on a global stage and is actually good for peer-to-peer systems as a replacement to this old dying system that has to be used at the point of a gun, it's called crypto. And that's why I think these conversations are important. Like, if we're going to be using crypto, we need to be letting the manufacturers of these products know what exactly we demand from them, and holding them accountable to that. We can't be allowing, it's like, if you desire like full censorship, and it's like, okay, you need to be putting that out there and finding the project and holding them accountable to that. And I don't feel like the conversation happens enough in the crypto space. Most of the conversation is like, what dog coin make money?
Yeah. Like, there's definitely a very conspiratorial like side of crypto. Like, when we talk about CBDCs, like, that is crypto. Like, so we know Bitcoin, it was created in 2009. We don't know who created it. Some anonymous dude, Satoshi. And the Genesis block, he talks about like the banks, and just like time goes on, this thing exists. Like, it's so, like, the story is so crazy. Like, this is a monetary network. The globe is adopting it. It hit like multiple trillions of dollars, and nobody even knows who created it, But part of that is like, is there something behind this? Like, is this to get people like understanding of what crypto is eventually? Do you push something after people adopt it? Because I think probably all three of us would agree, like, CBDCs are probably going to come eventually. That's kind of like the end game where I see this thing going. In the meanwhile, I would definitely like to make a lot of money on these different cryptocurrencies, and hopefully we get, maybe a decade, 2 decades, or even more. But I do think eventually, like, those CBDCs, they find their way into this.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like, are you going to use a government enforced like fiat in the form of crypto, or are we going to adopt like an actual crypto project? Because I would separate the two of them. While one is still crypto because it uses cryptography, it does not have the original ethos of crypto, which is the digital revolution.
Yeah, I have a very good conversation that should be coming out pretty soon on Tim Warren's channel, and he wants to talk with me about like he's a firm believer that institution like Satoshi basically envisioned institutions integrating into Bitcoin, and I'm like the exact opposite. I think institution like going on like the Bitcoin forums and stuff like that back in 2011, especially through 2012, Satoshi was super vocal about like anti-bank and establishment. So the ethos, like over time, is getting definitely diluted. And I do consider myself more on the cypherpunk side. So I'm a firm believer that we don't need the institutions. It's just faster adoption with the institutions. Now, Bitcoin, I'm not too sure. If Bitcoin doesn't get an institutional adoption via the Clarity Act in the next couple of years, again, I kind of laid out the bearish case of just the costs go up, price isn't going up, and we're going to have an issue. But a lot of other networks don't have that same issue that Bitcoin has. So,
yeah, well, it's like I do think eventually we kind of see that shift from Bitcoin being like, well, Bitcoin is the standard just because it was number one to, hey, you know, there's millions of crypto projects out here. What actually is best for, say, peer-to-peer? What's best for us to make a community insurance type thing? You know, like there's going to be tons of use cases for crypto besides just peer-to-peer. And I want to see the biggest adoption, but not at the cost of it's like, well, you're not actually buying crypto. So, hey, you got the ETF. Some banker is now holding a piece of Bitcoin and you don't ever touch anything. And while it drives the crypto name, it doesn't drive anything for crypto.
Satoshi's rolling in his grave with that everything you just said right there. Satoshi is like, he is rolling in his grave right now. Thinking about banks holding your Bitcoin. What? You know, not your keys, not your coins. Whatever happened to that, you know? And as money goes up, like noobs come in and they're the ones who are giving the institutions their money and they're holding. So it's tough because over time, just more like this whole asset class is just getting more diluted with the opposite of cypherpunks. So that whole, like if Bitcoin fails, I don't see another network having that strong of a cultivating community. And I know, so somebody just asked, Andrea said, why did Caspa postpone their hard fork till June? Just a quick question, just to answer this. So they were running behind on something in particular, but June, they should launch the Takata hard fork. And that should be the first of 2 hard forks that are happening in 2026, which is pretty dope. But in that hard fork, expect Silverscript, which is like a more effective programming language, just easier to build as a developer. And then also expect Silverscript, and it's not vprogs, but there's one other thing. I don't know why I forgot, but it's basically setting the framework for Dagnite, which should come later here in Q3 to Q4 of this year, and that should bring us from 10 BPS to 30 BPS. So yeah, expect a lot of stuff to happen in the next like half a year, actually through 2026 on Caspa, which is awesome because we are in a bear market. It's at like 3 cents right now, and I think it's smart to buy.
We'll kind of see how it all goes. You know, I wish more projects were kind of doing something during the bear market. Yeah, you see a lot of them kind of voying for more institutional adoption than anything. Where they're like, yeah, Clarity Act get passed. Use my blockchain for your CBDC, and or Swift network. We're aiming for that. Where it's like, this is the exact opposite of what the crypto community needs.
So the Clarity Act, the Clarity Act itself is all about institutional adoption, you know, governments. And so I've done the math. 2021 with Grayscale, Tesla, like a couple other companies, they had Bitcoin. They had about 9% of all the Bitcoin on hand globally. And now there's about 18%. So China, United States, MicroStrategy, et cetera, it's about 18% of all the Bitcoin. So I concluded that about 2x every 4 years, the institutions gather Bitcoin. Now, that doesn't really keep in mind the Clarity Act, which is probably going to open the faucet, but it's kind of like maybe 50% probability that it passes this year. And I think with that passing, it just further away from the ethos that we just talked about as these institutions step in. But that's why I buy the products like, Ondo or just all these other ones that I feel like are going to be tied into institutional adoption via the Clarity Act. So again, none of that's financial advice, but it's just my take and how I plan as an investor to, try to play the news.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's never a bad thing to keep into account what the news is going to be. It's a great way to make money. I'm of a completely different opinion, whereas like I don't think crypto needs the government. I don't think crypto needs the Clarity Act, because we saw it with Monero when they tried to enforce anything. Monero was incredibly censorship resistant.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, shut us down. You can't buy us on a centralized exchange.
Mhm.
Big whoop. It still succeeded and was unable to be shut down. So
Right.
crypto doesn't need the government's permission.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. I just think it's faster adoption. Like if we want price to go up, it's
Mhm.
much better that the Clarity Act does pass. All these different whales from all these different banks, and just other institutions, they buy it on the treasuries. So I think everyone's going to be a little bit jaded if you're just strictly talking about like the ethos piece of it, because at that point it's like, well, we're not going to get rich, or we're not going to be able to make a lot of money. So I think it's kind of like a spectrum. It's like some people are like, oh, maybe 98%. I don't know anybody that's 100%. That's like, I'm not worried about investing at all, but I'm over here, I'm a cypherpunk, forget the government. And then there's people over here who's just like, I need the Clarity Act to pass right now. I'm a spam content, I'm a create content and talk about it passing tomorrow, So yeah, there's no ethos there. So but somewhere along the line, you've got to figure out why you're here. And I'll tell you, the further like that you're over here with the cypherpunks, the easier it is to diamond hand. So like the people that held the Bitcoin the longest are the people that got the most money out of their Bitcoin. So it's like they didn't go through the emotions, they didn't go through a lot of the other stuff. They just believed in something and they held. And that's why I try to teach people about the ethos being so important as opposed to an investment, because then people just they paper hand it and they sell whenever it's down 90%, So
See, and like I feel like part of that though is that like a lot of these projects aren't listening to what we as a community actually want from them. Well, it's like, for a while they wanted pump.fun, but like they were listening to the people over on this side, like you were saying, that were like, I need the Clarity Act passed now. Instead of listening to somewhere in this range in the middle, where it's like you need a little bit of cyberpunk in there, where it's like someone like me who's all the way on the, like, I'll buy Bitcoin, but I also am like, I'm just here for the technology adoption.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that's what it was to me. Bitcoin
sure.
was all a revolution, and I would like to like, what do new crypto projects need when it comes to revolution? Especially when, we've all heard the buzzword where it's like quantum computing is going to destroy Bitcoin, and this network's going to be destroyed, and that network's going to be destroyed. So like, what's next? What do we do?
Yeah. In regards to that, like whole spectrum analogy, I'd say like treat Bitcoin different than everything else. This is just pure. This is the one that's supposed to replace a monetary system. Like if Crux goes out and buys like Brett, I don't know, some random meme coin, that is like all the way over on this side. Like I'm over here trying to make a little money, I don't believe in the culture and all this other stuff. I'm just trying to make a little bag. So, but throughout the analogy, you got to just understand these cryptocurrencies are much different from one than the other. And that's why I think like decentralization is only like important for like peer-to-peer networks. For example, like, I mean, right now something super ethical that's going on is Arbitrum. So Arbitrum froze like a couple $100 million, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's like $78 million worth of funds that was part of that Kelp DAO Aave hack. And a lot of people are like, well, if 7 people can get together and then essentially freeze those funds, is it decentralized? And then they also got together with law enforcement. So you have real people, a part of real governments that have frozen funds. And just today, Aave actually pushed an initiative to be able to get those funds back from Arbitrum. So like we just have like all this weird stuff happening right now. Like, do people like decentralization? Is it cool? Is it okay? And there's no like right or wrong answer. It's like, what do you want out of a network and what's okay? So
I think Coinbase did a very good job at answering this, where their whole base, they have base, and it doesn't have a token, which dilutes the strength of the network, which causes for these attacks. There's no reason to attack the base blockchain because you get no money out of it. Nothing
I
happens.
thought there was a base token though.
No.
Well,
Nope.
they're going to create one. They've stated at the end of last year, they said that 2026 should be the year. So, but we will see.
No, I mean,
So
I would hope not, because
Right.
like their model right now works extremely well.
yeah,
There's no change of gas fees from base. It's just all what is Ethereum,
Right.
And if you could do this as a L1 that has no token, the way that an institution would, then it works way more efficiently.
Mhm.
You can use the L2 that's built on the L1 to do whatever,
Yeah.
and then pay gas fees in your L2, and that would work fine.
Mhm.
And the L1 would never be attacked. It's never at risk because there's no public and private key really that you're dealing with here. It's
Mhm.
quantum resistant. You can just make a new address every single time that you're using the L1 and then never have to worry. It's what all the private companies are going to do. It also negates all of your volatility, which is the biggest problem of crypto.
Mhm.
It's like, well, do I buy Bitcoin now or is it going to go down 20 more K?
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, so Ethereum, it's been like a slow laggard, especially last bull market. Like it barely even hit a new all-time high, 48, 4,900. And that's all because of the parasitic L2s, like Arbitrum, Optimism. They all have their own token. So instead of buying ETH, they buy these other L2 tokens, and the market cap doesn't go up because of competition internally within that ecosystem. So I actually am very bullish on Ethereum. I just hate the fact that all these L2s create their own token because it just dilutes the value of the network. So I would definitely like the cool thing about Caspa in particular. So Caspa has already said like the side chains are not going to have their own like tokens. It's all about how do we do every single thing on the layer one. And I respect that because the moment you use like a side chain like Lightning or like Liquid Network on Bitcoin, you sacrifice the decentralization. And 99.9% of all transactions that happen on Liquid are controlled by a couple entities. So Lightning Network on Bitcoin is the band-aid that everyone's like, it's scalable now, whatever, but it's not because you didn't keep your decentralization there. You are still required to commit to the Jack Dorseys of the world or the people that have these nodes on the Lightning Network. So like this day and age, 2026, Caspa, in my opinion, I would just tell everyone do their research. It is the network that is proving what can exist. And I appreciate that because as technologies like evolve, you have the Bitcoins, it's beautiful. It's slowly grown over time, but it hasn't like evolved. Like I'm trying to see what's the new programming language? Is it Move? Is it Rust? What is the more efficient technology? Is it blockchain? Is it a DAG? Like I need it to keep advancing, adopting, advancing, and then creating. So there's something called vProgs, which essentially allows off-chain computation to happen, and then it gets settled on-chain without sacrificing decentralization, composability, or your sovereignty, which is, no other network has done this. So pretty interesting. I'm just saying, do a little research. I compare everything to Caspa essentially as an analyst at this point.
And I mean, that's a big part of something I'd like to see. Especially when you're talking about a world where we all live with phones in our hand, and like how many times do you go like you're running a quick errand, you're like, oh, I gotta grab this real quick, and you're like, well, all I have is my phone, tap pay. We want to make it extremely easy for you to just tap someone else's phone and pay them, and this is settled off the chain. keeping things completely freed up on the network. You're not bogging anything down.
Sure.
And that's one of those big things I've thought about as well. And I think it would be highly critical for any crypto that wants to be a mass adopted crypto to have this built in.
Right.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've never thought of that. Interesting. But I mean, you think about it, that's maybe like half the transactions are done face to face. You know, yes, I buy stuff on Amazon, excuse me, but I also go to the gas station and I pay. So I think that would definitely help alleviate some of the bottlenecks. But I think the main issue that we have going into like even just this year is that's AI agents. Like right now we're thinking in terms of humans, and it like right now everything's about to just exist. Like maybe like 50 times more humans or even 100 times more humans that are going to be transacting and buying stuff from Amazon and everywhere else. And right now we think, all right, Visa's like 30,000 TPS, MasterCard's at like 7K TPS, and this is what we've been okay with. But we haven't accommodated for the AI agents. And that's a whole different beast, whole different conversation. But we would need to adopt technologies like that to not bog these networks down.
And that's something we've actually brought up here quite a bit, is the future is an agentic economy.
Yeah.
You're going to tell the agent, well, my mortgage is due this day, the light bills due this day, the phone bills due this day, gas is due this day, water's due this day, I need this and this for groceries. You're just going to tell it, and it's going to order it from Amazon. Like, hey, you know, Alexa, buy my groceries, you know, and it's going to do it. But
well, they kind of already have that.
Have to pay.
They kind of already have that in refrigerators, don't they? Where it sees what's there, and then if you take it out, don't put it back. After so long, it just adds it to the list of what you need to buy at the grocery store, and then it sends it to your phone, and it's like,
not my fridge. My fridge didn't get through high school. It's still
that's like the 20K fridge, you know?
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
the PhD.
Yeah, but I mean, they still have it though, so it's still out there.
But eliminate one of those steps now where it's like it notices that you didn't put it back, and instead of adding it to the list, it just orders it and it's automatically delivered to your house. And your fridge paid for your food. That's how it's going to go. And it needs to be an AI agent that has access to money, but all of this can, like, thousands and thousands of purchases would be happening a day from refrigerators alone. And that would bog down the network. So there needs to be some sort of way to do a lot of this off chain where you're like how ADA does it, where we're gonna batch transactions and settle these all at once. Where it's like you're denoted as this has gone through, but we actually settle it later. But also they had to refund you a bunch of money. So it makes more sense to not bog up the network where it's like, okay, well, you spent 100, they refunded you 15. So at the end of the day, it's just an 85 to them without bogging the network up twice.
So right now, crypto's at a big disadvantage to the banks because of mainly FDIC and just like other like reverting transactions. So if my fridge ordered something and I didn't want it, like some milk, I could easily dispute that with the bank. You can't dispute that on blockchain. Like it already sent it, somebody else has it, you're not getting it back. So I guess there's definitely some advantages right there. But I think eventually with things like the Clarity Act, it'll give you the ability to, hopefully, we will see if stablecoins are able to be FDIC insured. Because at that point, it is game changing where you're able to get 3-5% APY. You don't have to invest it. So it's going up in value over time as opposed to down. And yeah, I think hopefully, you know, regulation does bring on credibility. What up, Trade Intuition? What up, brother?
Yep.
See him in
if
chat.
You've got those bingo bangos, drop them in the chat. We also got CCM saying he's listening from the hospital. Great stream, and Dash is moving in the right direction, in my opinion. So he is on the Dash train. We've got a Caspa guy over here. CCM loves Dash, and honestly, I'm a fan of Dash. I don't use Dash, of course, but like I like that they keep with that ethos, and they're trying to solve a lot of the same problems that Caspa's trying to solve. Where it's like, why do we need 1,000 projects built on top of Dash when we could just, as technology progresses, solve issues issue by issue as they arise.
Yeah, for sure. I actually just recorded a video right before I got on here, and it's about the XRP versus, which is shout out XRP. If you got some XRP, throw up X's in chat. All right, so mixed feelings, super centralized. I get it. All right. So with XRP, they just had a like a little conference right after the Bitcoin one, and Zebic. So Zebic Protocol, they went up there and essentially talked about a partnership. In Zebic, they specifically focus payroll. So Crux, if you get paid, once every 2 weeks, right? That's how a lot of employers do it, or once a month, then you don't get any money up until that time. So it's a large lump sum. What blockchains have done is they've allowed streaming payrolls. So I clocked in at 9 a.m. It's now 9:01. I'm already paid for that minute. So, and I have access to those funds. So instead of $1,000, I get like maybe $3 for that second, and it's pretty interesting how payroll, I think, will soon be like streaming. And that's how like the new society is probably going to be, as opposed to like once a month or once every 2 weeks. But I bring all this back to Dash. So Dash has an integration with their Visa cards on the Zebic network. And you can actually spend money on a Visa card through that. So it's pretty cool. I like Dash.
I mean, and see, I think these are the things that really need to get talked about so that other projects end up adopting them. Or it's like, if you like that feature of Dash and you're a big Caspa fan, well, hey, Miss Caspa, this is what you need to do. It's going to force a lot of adoption, and it'll end up being more of a competition for the part of crypto that actually needs to survive. Not like, hey, we're aiming to be the next CBDC, or we want to be the next ETF, or like, how do we get the pay rails for the Swift network? Like all of the things that, as you said earlier, Satoshi was totally against when it came to crypto.
Yeah. All right. So I see some people in chat. They're a little upset about XRP. I get it. Look, you're looking at the very first competitor, 2012, by the way, where this company out of nowhere, right? They start creating a competitor to Bitcoin. They're centralized. They create all the tokens out of thin air and they put it into escrow. Super like sus. I'll be honest. There's a lot of stuff that I don't really like fully commit to with XRP in particular. But like on my channel, I'm like super just like, I just talk about all these different crypto projects. Like I know a lot of times I'll talk about Caspa, but deep dive after deep dive, I've done like well over like 50 of them at this point. And I do versus videos. So I'll do like Hedera versus Cardano, or Avalanche versus XRP, or whatever. So I always learn about comparing. And so I've covered XRP a lot of different times. Talked about like its consensus, being able to do 1500 TPS. Just out of the gates, like 2012, I got to be honest, like it was ahead of its time in terms of technology. But if you were to create a crypto like XRP nowadays, everyone would hate it, because it's like it stands for everything crypto's against, and not even on the fundamental side. Like Satoshi's vision is opposite of that on the regulatory side. So like you have people like Charles Hoskinson, who's like, the Clarity Act, they're trying to put all these security parameters on like all the different new projects. And he's like sounding the alarm, do not let this thing pass. Brad Garlinghouse is over here like rolling out the red carpet, like make it pass, let the banks win, like make it happen. And it's like, you can only choose one. So I'll be honest, like I'm way more on like Charles Hoskinson's side. I'm super about what crypto needs, as opposed to the banks continuing to win. So you have Coinbase somewhere in the middle. They're like, this thing needs to be halted. We need to figure out the stablecoin thing. But you got XRP over here, Coinbase in the middle, and then you got like the crypto guys of the world, like Charles Hoskinson. So you got to just figure out where you roll. But I think XRP, it's a super speculative project, and there's no more tinfoil like conspiracy project than XRP, because it's all about doing something that has never been done, and that's like rivaling Swift. So it's like centralization against centralization. That's why I'm not completely against it. I don't see XRP as a competitor really to like Bitcoin and stuff. I see it more as a competitor to who's already winning. And I'd rather a crypto company win than JP Morgan. So yeah.
I'm just surprised
have to agree.
Few people in chat are being nice about somebody that has XRP, because man, when I had XRP, I was getting so much hate, and I was like, look, you know what? Fine, I'll sell it all. And I bought in like under sub 20 cents, and I sold it under like $3.
Yeah,
and
so I have
a little bag, and then people were still giving me crap. I was like, you know what? Here, live on air. I'm like, look, no more XRP for me. There, you all win. And then you see all these other people now, like, you know, I was watching a stream last night about the XRP conference, you know, in Vegas, and I'm like, oh, I got one in Nashville. I might have to go.
Yeah, I mean, next year hopefully we'll all be there. That'll be pretty dope.
Honestly, I was one of the ones that gave you a lot of crap, but you know, I just think we need to be hypercritical of every single one of these crypto projects, especially if we're going to be talking about you are supposed to be replacing the entire system that we know. And but like the good parts we need to adopt. So like, yeah, while XRP has its crappy parts, maybe we adopt just one nice thing from XRP and one nice thing from Solana and one nice thing from Caspa.
That's one nice thing is all of that. Caspa did the DAG of Hedera. It did like the slow rollout like Cardano did, and I feel like Caspa really hit the head on the nail on the head. So, but what was I gonna say about XRP? Oh yeah, I have one unwritten rule in crypto, and if anybody has like, if you take one thing away from this live stream, this should be it. If somebody cannot explain a project better than you, they have no authority to tell you to buy or sell. So first of all, you know, nothing we say is financial advice, but like I know so much about XRP, and it's like if somebody's over here and they're saying like it's super centralized and that's your argument, you're gonna have to come harder, because it's like I'm at the level where I understand like the consensus that it's using, you know, 1500 TPS. I have this all in my head, you know, about it's a network that has survived the test of time. It's the only thing to dethrone Ethereum. I can put, you know, 1,000 different bullish metrics over here, and I could do like a couple hundred bearish ones. But if it's more bullish and bearish in my eyes, then I'm going to keep it regardless of how other people think about it. So, and that's why Caspa's down like 80%. And you see like my videos, I'm just like, Caspa's the next best thing, because I don't care about price. I really don't. I understand this project better than really any other project in crypto after reading hundreds of white papers. So that's why like I don't care about other people's sentiment, you know. So
what were you gonna say, Badel?
Oh, I was just saying, I remember when I had my bag of XRP and then it got delisted off the major exchanges, and I'm just sitting there like, crap.
Oh, that was like Coinbase.
Like, hey, no, when I can sell it, it's going to be worth like $5 instead of 5,000. You know, like, oh, there goes that bag.
How come nobody gave?
I mean, I went to Uphold a little bit, sold some here and there, but then it got, you know, re-enlisted, and I was like, okay, let's go.
Right, like nobody gave Coinbase any crap for that, but they were delisting. They were not standing there like toe to toe, like, or hand in arm with XRP. It was more like a, you know, you're getting attacked, we need to get away from you. So I mean, that's something that like no other. So you got to remember, XRP put up hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees. Like that is huge for this asset class. If XRP did not go up to bat, then your Zebic networks and all these other ones would be probably disrupted a lot more than they are today, against the Gary Genslers and the, you know, all these other people, Elizabeth Warrens. So these are things that you got to put a little bit of value on, right? I mean, they went to bat. So
see, and like they took the bullet for the entire crypto community,
right?
You know, and they came out on top. It was quite amazing to see. You know, it's the ethos that crypto really needs. You know, it's like we can go to battle with the we can go to battle with the government and we can win, but we can also at the same time give them the middle finger and tell them there's nothing you can do about it, even if we lose.
It's true. Look at Tornado Cash. Like Tornado Cash, like the kelp. So for those that don't know, Aave got hit with this massive exploit one of the biggest. So just last month was the worst month in a decade in crypto from different hacks. So just a quick disclaimer, like if you're using DeFi right now, I'd be very careful. Drift protocol got smoked, Kelp DAO. Essentially somebody created 150,000 Ethereum out of thin air. But it's not trackable because they use something called Tornado Cash for the on-ramp. And these are things that the government has tried to shut down, and there's no way you can do it. So, and that's the beauty about cryptocurrency is the government thinks we need them, but we really don't need them. So, yeah.
Well, I always thought it was a little bit of a laugh, you know, when the government's over here trying to like promote crypto. I'm like, you realize this is your replacement. And like big banks being like, yeah, buy the Bitcoin ETF. And it's like, you realize that you're touting the technology of your replacement. Yeah. That if enough people actually learn about this and adopt crypto, we don't need you. And we won't need you to hold Bitcoin for us because we won't be using you.
So remember those little things I said earlier, though, like is your grandma or is, I don't know, your cousin going to use a network that's not FDIC insured? Like there's certain things that crypto, it's not going to be able to compete. And if the banks take the technology, which JP Morgan, they already talked about it, they like smart contracts. They're not a big fan of like Bitcoin and stuff. So I feel like they're adopting the technology because they know it's programmable, it's effective, and they're just going to try to use it to their advantage with what the government allows them to stay in the lead with. So like the Clarity Act is super important on if the banks are going to continue leading the way, or if the Robinhoods and the Coinbases of the world start like taking their piece of the pie.
Yeah, I mean, we'll kind of see how it all unfolds. I have no faith that it gets passed this year, honestly.
Sure, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I would hope for a Q3. So in October of last year, I said this verbatim on a video. I said it is Q3 2026. Bitcoin just crashed from 126K down to 40K, and like clockwork, the bear market came and took everything we built. Right. So already in October of last year, I already said Bitcoin was going to go down to 40K. And that's in accordance with the Bitcoin 4-year cycles of diminishing returns, losses. 1 year after a peak goes into a bear market low. And I was being called like crazy at that time. I'm still being called crazy. But I would say like the Clarity Act it's the number one catalyst that can prevent that from happening. And without a Clarity Act happening this year, I see us going down to 40K still. And it sucks. It's scary. But that's a time that legends are made, man. If you buy Bitcoin at 40K, that is crazy. I mean, you can only do that if you stop buying every pump and dip and just stop. You know, everyone's just throwing everything into crypto right now. Give it time. Have patience.
Well, I mean, that's like I told one of my buddies. He was like, "Oh, you know, things are down right now. When do I buy?" And I was like, "Wait for like September, October, November. Just buy those 3 months and you'll be fine." He was like, "Are you sure?" He was like, I'm like, "Well, if you look at history, that's what history says. So I'm going to go off history."
If it's not broke, you know, it's crazy. It's too easy. Like 1 year after the peak, every single time, literally every time. It's too easy. This time's different, right? No,
that's what they say every time.
Like when people ask me that too, BC, I tell them, I was like, you know, you can buy these months or whatever, but if you don't believe me, put half of that money into Bitcoin now and set the other half to the side to buy then, and then see where it's at, you know, because at least then you're doing half of what you wanted, half of what I'm kind of advising you to do. Which is not financial advice, but
yeah. So DCAing is always smart. So if you buy X amount every Y days, you know, I put $50 in every week. That's not a bad strategy. I bulk buy. I'm super risky with what I do. I have like 4 things. One of them's like crazy. It's something I've never heard anybody talk about. And I learned about it back in October actually. And it was about this chart. It's called the long-term holder realized price. And this is where I figured like Bitcoin, to me, I've accepted it as a conspiracy. Like it's created by people that understand this thing, and it's going to be the new monetary system because these people want it to be. And not to go too far into that conspiracy route, this is how I'm able to prove that. How about this? Actually, I'm gonna share my screen for this one if we can do it. But basically, Bitcoin long-term holder realized price on Bitcoin. So I think this is probably the most important thing I can really go through right now. But is it being shared right now?
Yep.
All right, cool. So let me explain this chart. You have an orange line. This is going to be essentially the OGs. These are going to be your Satoshi Nakamoto's and your whales, right? The black line is going to be your price of Bitcoin. So as you can see, for 1 year, it goes vertical, up and right, and it catches up, and then it slowly touches the price of Bitcoin as it's dumping, right? So what happens is you have your OGs, they sell, which dumps the price, and eventually their realized price goes up to the point where it meets the price of Bitcoin. And then guess what? For 3 straight years, we call this a bull market, where the OGs are just dormant. They're not doing anything. And then you get the peak of what Bitcoin is. And guess what? They sell for another 8 years, or another 8 to 12 months. That's where you get your bear winters. And this chart by itself, it's like a stair step, right? You have your OGs, they're dormant, 3 years. For 1 year, they sell, boom, touches. Every single era, it barely touches between the realized price and the price of Bitcoin. That's era 1 there, era 2 here, era 3, era 4. And what I'm waiting on is era 5 right here. So it's currently sitting at about 47,000 or so. But as you can see, the price does go a little bit under the long-term holder realized price. And it usually does that for about 2 months. So that's what I'm waiting on. Like this right here is showing me that we're not close to the bottom being in. And it's like one of 4 different metrics that I have to do like some bulk buys. But yeah, hope that helps. It's probably your first time hearing about this chart, but that stair step is crazy. Like you can't tell me that is not like coordinated. There's people that have been holding this thing from like $1 up to 126K. And then you read this headline on Twitter, dormant wallet wakes up after 15 years. Like no way. There's no investor out there that's going to hold on that long. This is a coordinated effort by people. And every single 4th year, they dump it for a year. And that's why I'm not about to go against the grain, because these are some powerful people and they got some conviction for sure. So
yeah, it's why those articles always make the news, when it's like, oh, well, this whale that's been dormant for 10 years, I guess it's just his turn to sell now. You know, like it's always been the same.
You got to ask yourself, like, who are these people? Well, first of all, we don't know who Satoshi is, but this 15 years, you just dumped 30,000 on the market. Who are you? You know, like that's a coordinated effort. That's
like, who is Mr. 100?
Right. Yeah. So as you can see over time, so right now about 68% of all Bitcoin's owned by retail, and 18% by the institutions and governments. And then the rest is like, you got 3 million Bitcoin lost forever. So I am a firm believer of he who holds the supply controls the price. So an active price of an asset is you're buying and selling, these people bartering, but the people who own the supply at any time, they can come through and just dump it and everybody else gets hit. So I still believe that this is a retail market. The Satoshis of the world are who control it. And until that 18% of the MicroStrategies in America continue going up and up and up, which I think will be about 36% in 2029, I think that may be enough to prevent us from going into another year-long bear winter. So I think this is where the 4-year cycle breaks. But I think we got to get through this bear market first.
Agreed. It'll be interesting to see if we find some new crazy things that are happening in the bull cycle, where it's like this new project comes out with something new that really makes us think completely differently about what crypto projects really need. Because it seems like that happens every single bull cycle when all of the money exists, where it's like, dang, I didn't even think that we needed, this crazy niche thing in crypto, but we 100% need it. So
wait till that euphoria comes back. So I know earlier you mentioned pump.fun and we laugh at it. We're like, all that ecosystem got tore up, blah, 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 blah. Wait until Bitcoin's at 200K and pump.fun is going crazy. It's parabolic. All these meme coins are going, like, people don't know how to act. Like we made money on our Bitcoin. So then we go into these other ecosystems that have no use and we give them, value. So people are going to gamble. And I would just say always Bitcoin, treat it differently than everything else. Remember your conviction. Be over here on this side where you are diamond hands. You understand the value of Bitcoin, in particular Bitcoin, and all your altcoins you're holding is to accumulate more Bitcoin over time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
While we try to force the things that we want from the people that are making these crypto projects, you vote with your dollar when it comes to a lot of this, with your conviction in these projects. So, make your voice heard. Make more conversations like this happen. We, like CCM said, Crux, thanks for coming on. It has definitely been a great stream. We will have more conversations like this. LBC is going to come on next week. He's got a completely different angle of what he thinks crypto needs. No surprise, know. And that's the beauty of the crypto space, though, is like there are tons of things that the crypto space needs, and we need these conversations to happen so that we can even think about these things. Because what he said, I had never even thought of before. Just like what you said with the whole, everyone access, tap on your phone and you're good to go. Never even thought of it before. So 2 different routes to trying to solve a problem that needs to be solved in crypto. And that's getting more people into crypto.
And just another avenue of approach of somebody creating something that gets hacked, and then people see the scam, and then they run away from crypto forever. So, it's a crazy asset class, but in order to build, you have to innovate. So you got to start somewhere.
Most definitely. You got anything to leave the people with? You got anything going on this week they need to know about?
So Zebic XRP video that does go out on Wednesday on my channel. So it's Crux of Crypto. Dang. So I'll tell you, as a new content creator, I started about a year ago, just a little over a year. I tell you, just like, and this is just everybody, the more you get into crypto, the more you start understanding it. We have a due diligence of spreading the word of crypto and getting enough people to really understand it's not a scam. So like, you don't have to go on Facebook and post it, but at some point you have to realize you are, somebody that has to contribute to this ecosystem more than just buying it. So talking to your friends, talking to your family, talking to all these people, it's not only going to help them out, it's going to help your conviction. And eventually the goal should be either creating content or just, helping communities grow, like join somebody on Twitter or something like that, but keep it pushing and keep growing and spread the word of crypto.
Oh, thank you for that. We just dropped his channel in the chat. So if you're not following him, go over, give him a subscribe, check out some of his content. I like his versus videos. So that is the most, that's my favorite content, because I'm over here like a nerd and I'm here about the technology. I don't care how much money I make as long as the revolution happens, No.
For sure.
Badel, you got, and what was that?
Oh, that's good. I just said appreciate you. For sure.
And Badel, you got anything going on this week?
No, it's more cold weather.
Oh man.
It was 80 today. The rest of the week is gonna be between like 55 and 60. Like,
we got the shovel out.
My buddy in Wyoming had the shovel out last week, so I was like, what the heck? I'm so glad that I didn't like take your advice and go there as well. He's like, cut down trees and
heck no. Like, we're like halfway into the year. What are we doing?
Yep. And they said global warming was a thing as it's snowing in April. But I don't know if I have anything going on. I'm waiting to hear from LBC to see if we'll actually do a recording for Counter This. Hopefully we can finally get the Medicaid episode recorded. So we will see. Follow up to our Social Security one. Which, if you're not following Counter This, definitely should be. We do a lot of great conversations. We actually had Crux on there as well, so he talks about more than just crypto. And as always, hopefully CCM is here next week. We are here every single Monday. Prayers go out to him and his wife. She's in the hospital right now, so hoping for the best on that. He will be live Friday, so as far as I know. So Friday nights for his, more of a let loose stream. So make sure you give him a sub if you're not subbed to him, because this is going out on a lot of channels here. So
Yeah, last Friday got a little crazy at the end.
That was a long
And a
live
few
stream.
people messaged me in the morning like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm great."
It was like a 3-hour plus live stream.
Oh, like the good old days. There we go.
That's
Yeah,
pretty wild.
I think the longest one I was on was for like 4 hours. And I'm like,
Gosh.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to say anymore. Can I go to bed?
Yeah, I think our longest crypto on the rocks was like a little over 7 hours.
Dang. Yeah, that's
Or
crazy.
close to 7. Like it was right around 7 hours. It was like, man, like
Hmm.
well, it's just we kept going like 3 hours, 3.5, 4, 5, 5.5. You know, then we dropped down to like 3 or 4, and it was like, you know, everybody's like, "Oh, come on, let's get the longest stream yet." And then it just kept going and going. It's
There you
like,
go.
man.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys haven't watched those, definitely missing out there. But, you know, we will see you here next week at 7 p.m. Eastern time for another HODL the Line. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and try to stay safe out there, and keep away from the FUD, because there is definitely a lot of it going on. Later, folks.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Screens glow. Timeline scream. Same fear, different day. Lock in. HODL the line. Don't blink, don't fold. Hands stay steady when the stories get old. Charts go wild, but the base is fine. Mindset, grounded, battle calm. BC breaking down the noise. Hold the line. Yeah, we ride that grind through the fear, through the foot, through the echo chamber signs. They panic, sell. We design the climb. HODL the line. Yeah. HODL the line. Old school charts in a new age storm. Seen cycles born, seen cycles torn. Zoomed out vision, long-term frame. While the feed chases candles, he studies the game. Macro whispers, history rhymes. Patience weaponized over time. No panic button, no rush to speak. Just facts stacking up week by week. They trade emotion, we trade belief. Time does the work if the thesis breathes.